everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com and I'm here in Oxford with Ali Luke. Hi Ali.
Hi Joe.
And today we're talking about Ali's new book, Lycopolis. Alright Ali, so tell us a bit about you and your writing background.
Cool. So I studied English literature at university and then I went on and studied creative writing as a master's at Goldsmiths in London. So I guess I've got a fairly literary background as a reader. It's probably not how I choose to write, so my writing's not too kind of highbrow.
Yeah. And so have you always written?
Pretty much. It's one of the few things that I've kind of done from being a child. I think I knew for a long time that I wanted to be a writer, and my first attempt at a novel I was 14, so it was really bad.
Yeah.
But I tried.
And for those people who don't know, tell us a bit about Goldsmiths and the course there.
Sure, so I took the master's degree part-time across 2 years, which meant that it was just a little bit more spaced out, and I think of my kind of workshop group, the people doing it part-time were happier than those doing it full-time. They just had the kind of space for their writing. So a big element of the course was workshopping, which meant we kind of were in a group of about 10 or 11 people with a tutor guiding us, and we'd present a piece of our writing once or twice a term and people would give feedback. So that was absolutely invaluable. Like chapter 1, scene 1 of Lycopolis was workshopped, and it just kind of grew from there. And it was a great way to form relationships with other writers, and we used to get together outside of class to workshop. So that was probably the most useful element. Plus we also had tutorials where we got expert feedback just from the tutor on stuff that we were working on. Yeah, it was a really good experience. It was kind of a bit of a sacrifice in terms of money and time to actually do a master's, but I have no regrets that I did it. So
oh, fantastic,
really
fantastic. Now tell us a bit more about the book, because it's probably not what people would expect to come out of that type of master's, is it?
I think, yeah, people have odd ideas about master's degrees. I think there's this sense that there's some great literary novel that they teach you to write. So Lycopolis is... Lycopolis, here it is yeah, I've described it as supernatural thriller stroke contemporary fantasy. I'd say it's not exactly genre fiction. It's probably, it's just a book. Lots of people have enjoyed it, whether or not they're kind of fantasy or thriller fans. And it's got a lot of stuff in it that I really love. It's centred around a group of online gamers, which sounds very geeky. I assure you it's
Geeky's fine.
Yeah. It has been read and enjoyed by people who are totally not geeky, and lots of people who are geeky. So it's a lot of fun, and it also let me perhaps look at a few other things like who we are online, what we're doing when we write and when we create, the power of the imagination, stuff like that that kind of comes into my sort of other work, but yeah, which just really interests me. So it was good fun to write.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, because of the whole Goldsmiths experience, how did you try and publish it, and what did you end up doing?
So for a long time I was very, very fixated on what I think is the kind of writing dream, which was that I would, send it to an agent, and I would get an agent, and the agent would say I love it, and the agent would get me a book deal, and I would be a millionaire and I'd live happily ever after or something. So for a long time my dream was to just kind of write fiction full time. Certainly what I was thinking of as a teenager and probably, in my early 20s. That wasn't how it panned out. I talked to a couple of agents and editors and people like that, and they just were not totally kind of behind the idea. They didn't think it necessarily had a market. I think the publishing industry is quite conservative, so unless you fit really neatly into one individual category, then it's kind of tough to get far. So in the end I brought it out as an ebook on Amazon, and I'm going to have it on some other platforms soon, and that's been really good for me because I already have a sort of small but kind of loyal online following, and plus the subject matter of the book means I guess it's aimed at people probably kind of late teens, 20s, 30s, people who are online, they have e-readers, they're kind of in touch with technology, so it seems to be finding its audience, which is lovely.
Okay, so you've gone down this self-publishing route, and how's it been so far?
It's been a lot of fun. I'm a bit of a control freak, so I really like the fact that I had complete control over the timescale and the cover art and kind of the editing. I got the help of a professional editor, but it was my kind of final say on it, what went in or what went out of the book. So that's been really good. It's been really nice to feel if it kind of succeeds, it's because I put the work in, and if it fails, well, it's kind of my fault. It's nice to sort of, you stand on your own 2 feet, and I like that about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about the, you've got quite a, spiritual stroke fantasy element to the book, and also gaming, also got Oxford in there. We've got some. So how much of you is in this book, and where's this come from?
More than I want people to realise, maybe. So it's very much kind of from me, and something my tutor, Francis Spafford, who is a fantastic writer, you should totally read his books. Francis said to me that it's kind of true of first novels that they're often quite autobiographical, in that there's a lot of the writer in them. And I think in some ways that's kind of good advice, because you write what you know, but you also write what you really care about. And this is, Lycopolis is probably the first thing I've written that, I really felt like I kind of cared about it, and I think it's good, and it was worth, the hours and hours and the constant redrafting that I put in to make it good. So yeah, there's a lot of me in. Oxford is, I guess, kind of my hometown. I've lived here between the ages of 10 and 18, and then went away for a few years, and now I'm back. So it's a place I know well. Gaming was kind of my world as a teenager. Sadly, now that I kind of write for a living, I have less time for online gaming. It would be destructive, detrimental in to my writing. So yeah, and then the supernatural. I guess I'm a Christian. I kind of go back and forwards a little bit on some aspects of my faith. I don't think I have all the answers by any means. So to some extent the book was perhaps a chance for me to explore some of the things that I'm kind of thinking through. And I don't personally believe in demons, but I think they, I guess they can be a good metaphor for explaining some of the evil in the world. I don't think there are evil people, but I do think there's such a thing as evil, maybe as a force or as a kind of state of mind or something.
Oh no, and I'm exploring that too, very much. And it's funny you say about first novels, because my first novel, I kill a nun in the first scene. That is not autobiographical.
But I guess we put our own kind of emotions in, or aspects of the characters, of perhaps kind of some of the aspects we don't normally show of ourselves to the world, or the bits of us we kind of wish weren't there. So
yeah, and I like the aspect of my characters exploring faith and spirituality themselves, and it allows us to do that. So fantastic. Right, so you also you talked about your job now, being writing, and you're actually more well known on the internet as a blogger, and you just spoke at Blog World. You're actually pretty famous online these
internet
days.
Famous.
Yeah, internet famous in the small niche of the internet, where I sit anyway. So tell us a bit more about that. What is your business? How are you actually having a job these days?
So I guess I'm kind of living the dream of making money online, which people often believe is just not possible. I don't make money exactly from the internet. I guess I make money as, pretty much a traditional business that operates primarily through the internet as a kind of marketing tool, as a way to get clients and as a way to do business. So one of the things I've been doing over the past year and a bit is writing coaching, and I work with people one-on-one, usually over Skype or over the phone, which obviously is kind of hugely facilitated by the internet. I couldn't do that if, I couldn't do calls with people in the US if I wasn't doing it on Skype. It just wouldn't work. So that's one part of what I do. I also do some freelance writing, particularly for blogs and for kind of websites, so I've specialised in web writing. I came from an IT background before I kind of left the day job and started living the writing dream. So that's pretty much where I'm at.
And I guess I'm really, I loved it when you decided to publish your novel, because, I wanted to read it. I know how hard you'd worked on it. How do you mesh together the writing for love versus writing for money aspect?
That's probably been the toughest thing to balance over the past 2 or 3 years, because I really enjoy doing the fiction, but it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy, and it's much harder, I feel, to write good fiction that you can sell, than to write good non-fiction, because with non-fiction it's just functional. It can be informative, it can be entertaining, but it doesn't have to kind of, you know, be absolutely perfect. Whereas with fiction, if it's not really good, you just lose the reader. They pick up a different novel. There's no compelling reason for them to stick with yours. So it's been tough, and it's been a balancing act, and I guess I've kind of reminded myself that the fiction does matter to me, and that it is important, and that, you know, even if I never had any fiction published, I still really enjoy writing it. And I'm also kind of horrible to live with when I'm not writing fiction, so my husband is kind of glad. So I guess in practical terms, sometimes I would try and allocate a particular day each week, maybe Wednesdays or Fridays, to the fiction. Sometimes I would say the first hour of the day is for fiction, sometimes it would be the weekends, but I tried to make sure that it was consistent. And there were a few times with Lycopolis when I was kind of editing or revising heavily, when I would spend a lot of time just focused on fiction and kind of did the minimum to sort of keep afloat with, you know, my paid work.
What do you see as the challenges of marketing fiction versus the rest of the internet blogging lot?
I think it's tough, I guess, because, you know, fiction readers, particularly if you're reading a novel, you're probably either reading it in paper form, or you're reading it on a Kindle or another e-reader. You're not reading a novel on a blog. Whereas kind of when you're blogging to promote a blog, it's a more natural kind of jump for people to make. So I've found it tougher to market fiction, definitely. It's tougher to kind of sell people on the benefits, because, you know, traditionally when I'm marketing non-fiction, I'll say, these are all the great things about my blogging ebook. This is all the stuff it will teach you. I can't really say with Lycopolis, you know, the benefits of this is, well, hey, it's an entertaining read. You know, I mean, it's not, you're like, sure, it's
a benefit.
It's a good sell, I think it's a benefit. But it's hard to prove. I can't kind of prove to someone that this book will change their life, or even just change their day. So fiction, I feel, is more about a kind of emotional collection. You know, liking the author, liking their work, wanting to read on. So I've been experimenting with putting out some sample chapters, with doing some free short stories that kind of tie into the novel's world, stuff like that, just to kind of get people into it.
But you have created a following online, haven't you? And there has been some crossover.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Not maybe a huge crossover, but a few people I know have just kind of bought the book to support me, which is really nice. I really appreciate that. It's a lovely way to say thanks to someone, and I've done the same for other authors. I bought their book just to kind of, you know, because I like their blog.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it's a nice way to give back. Other people have bought it because they're genuinely interested, because there is some overlap with the kind of non-fiction that I do. I think I wasn't particularly strategic about it. You know, if I decided to self-publish right from the start, then I would have made my blogging more focused towards the topics of the novel. That wasn't the kind of way it went, so it's probably going to be a little bit of an uphill climb. But yeah, I've got a sort of a small but loyal and lovely blog following, so I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing how they spread the word and how things grow.
Yeah, and I'm interested in your opinion on the differences between the UK and the US in terms of blogging and ebooks, I guess.
Yeah, so here in the UK, I feel like we're kind of a couple of years behind, sadly. The blogging world is not so established. There aren't really any major sort of blogging internet-y conferences. You know, there's some stuff going on, but it's not kind of like America where you've got Blog World and you've got South by Southwest and, you know, other stuff. So the same with ebooks, really, because the Kindle came out here later. The Kindle Fire isn't here yet. You know, I'm really jealous of all my US friends who have one. And ebooks have VAT, which is like our equivalent of sales tax. So they're actually sometimes they are more expensive than the paper version on Amazon, which is just kind of crazy to me.
Me too.
It's quite nice for us indie publishers because we can kind of discount and undercut all the mainstream publishers. But I do think the market is taking longer to kind of get established. I think in a couple of years, you know, it will be catching up.
All right, so you've written one novel. You know, what else are you doing? And are you writing another one?
So I'm working on a sequel. In fact, I'm hopefully going to have a trilogy.
Fantasy writer.
Yeah, we all know fantasy writers need to have trilogies. It's set in stone. Originally, I was planning to make it standalone because I knew that agents and publishers were not going to want to buy a whole trilogy. But now I know that because I'm marketing it myself, that it is much, much easier to market the second book of a trilogy than an entirely new book with whole new cast of characters and stuff. So yeah, so I've got a blog where I'm kind of blogging. I'm encouraging people to follow that. I'm sort of just going to make sure that readers of the first book do hear about the second one, which I think is crucial. And so I'm taking a bit of a break from actually writing fiction to kind of market, but I do have the first sort of 10 chapters of the rough plot mapped out for the sequel, so I'm kind of looking forward to getting stuck in again.
Oh, fantastic. And I guess I really want to know what you are going to do in the future, because like me, I think
Me too.
no, but we're kind of similar in that we both want to do fiction, but we also want to have a great online business. What do you see yourself doing?
Absolutely both. I love writing fiction, but I think I would go a bit crazy if all I did was write fiction. I would just be totally in my own head the whole time, and it wouldn't be good for me or for anyone. So I think I want to explore certain themes in what I write, both in my non-fiction and my fiction, and sometimes one medium is just a more appropriate one for the message than another. And, you know, sometimes maybe my fiction can kind of be a bit of a critique on, you know, some of the non-fiction stuff I do. It's just a different way to look at the world, and it lets me explore things and kind of get under the surface of things in a way that perhaps my non-fiction tends to be a bit more straightforward, short, you know, hopefully useful to people, but it's not intended to be kind of deep wisdom. Whereas my fiction, I think, you know, I really hope it's something that would stand the test of time.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So where can people find you and your book?
Oh yeah, so you can find me at www.aliventures, that's ALIVENTURES.com, and you can find Lycopolis at Lycopolis. That's LYCOPOLIS. I can't even spell my own book. .co.uk. Somebody else had taken the .com. Very sad. And yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Ali Ventures there as well. To be honest, if you Google Ali Luke, you'll find way more than you could possibly want to read that I've written online. So
brilliant.
You'll find me.
Well, thanks ever so much for your time, Ali. That was great.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.